All right. These are my favorite podcast episodes with I'm actually getting tired of saying young people. Makes me feel like really old, but for our leaders who care youth, if you will. And it's great to have me on, Matthew, and share some stuff with us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So always the best place to start, without a doubt, is first a shout out to your mom because she introduced us. So we don't want to be in trouble and make sure we get that in there. And I won't say what she calls you. We'll keep calling you Matthew. I know we chatted about that a little bit, but we'll go with Matthew. The audience can kind of figure out what a mom would call you, type of thing if she had to. So, but if you could briefly introduce yourself with respect to not the stuff that you're doing right now, but where you're from originally, where you are now, a little bit about your family, if you want to share anything about that, a second cousin or something, I don't know, and also maybe something you've never told anybody, you want to share it with the world. That's always fascinating to hear. Not mandated or required here, but if you want to, and just tell us a little bit about Matthew.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Matthew Poska. I'm from Orange County, California. My family right now is kind of small. It's just myself. I don't have any siblings, and it's just me and my mom. My father unfortunately passed away when I was 15, so it's just been us for a little bit now. But we're doing well. Just recently, I graduated from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, where I got a Bachelor in Science in Accounting and Finance. And next month, I'll be headed off to Georgetown Law School to hopefully work on some public policy. And then probably something I haven't told anybody is over COVID, I learned how to juggle, and that was fun. And I do it occasionally, bring it up. So yeah,
You got anything handy there to juggle?
I wish now I'm gonna look like a fraud, but no, I swear I can do it.
All right, we'll have to
Yeah,
do a sequel, as they say.
yeah,
Matthew, this could be a precursor, if you will, for how you're going to juggle life in the future because you already learned how to juggle.
most
So,
definitely. Yeah,
super cool. Well, everybody found something to do over COVID. You juggled. Well, now,
yeah,
what did
yeah.
you juggle, by the way?
I had like a little kit from the store. And then, I mean, well, I only know how to do like three objects, but once you learn, you kind of do anything. You can do like golf balls, like you can do like lemons, just anything around the house that's like equal, same size. So yeah,
I love it. Do you ever watch America's Got Talent?
yeah, I've seen some. There's some good talent on there.
Yeah, they're not bad. I know, what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. The main star of the judges. How could I forget his name? But he says he hates jugglers.
Oh, I
And
remember that. Yeah,
but there's some awesome ones. Some of them use knives and everything. So pretty cool.
that's definitely
Um, so I mean, what were you like as a kid and a teenager? Because now you're basically a big kid, if you will. But did you have summer jobs? Was it sports, tech, music, dancing, juggling? What were you like?
yeah. I mean, I think as a kid, I was very I explored a lot. I played pretty much every sport you could think of when I was really young. Did like baseball, soccer, flag football. And I academically, I think even from like elementary school level, I was always sort of hard on myself. I always wanted to be like close to the top of my class. And so this is something that sort of carried with me even like to today, was just a lot of this pressure that I put on myself, but it's also a good thing. I think it's also a motivating factor. In terms of like stuff I ended up choosing in high school, I sort of narrowed down my focus. I did pole vault in college, so that was sort of a unique thing. Really cool activity to do. Really blessed to have the opportunity to do that. And then I also was involved with choir ever since I was young, and even through college, I sang in a men's group at college. With choir, I just love producing music. I think it's beautiful to come together and like make a sound, but also I think just the community of people you find are really just authentic, genuine people, really easy to get along with. And so that's been something that's been, I think, really fruitful in my life. Is just meeting great people through music and through that scene. And then also at the end of my high school, unfortunately, after my father passed away, I kind of wanted to learn to, step up and be a little more self-reliant. And so I started a personal finance club, the first ever in my high school. And so
Wow.
it was just basic stuff like retirement planning, credit scores, investing, stuff like that. Probably not the most interesting for high school kids, but I thought it was sort of stuff that could be really fruitful in their future and stuff that was sort of lacking in the curriculum. And so that was a great learning experience. Sort of led me into like studying business in college.
Wow, that's actually fantastic. A couple of notes there. I actually like choir, and some of them are. We talked about America's Got Talent. There's been some amazing choirs on that show, and it really is talk about teammates and teamwork and synchronizing and you name it, all that stuff, and it just makes you feel good. Um, so great for you for doing that. Some people would say, "Oh, that's not for guys," but they're missing the whole boat. That it's actually fantastic. Now, imagine if you had a juggling choir while you sang. That would probably make it less attractive, but interesting idea. So, academically, you started with accounting. Um, I could have warned you about that, having gone through my CPA. You should have called me. But so why now going to law or for law, and what are you envisioning?
Yeah, so I think this could be kind of a long-winded answer, but I'll start from basically the start of it. So when I went into college, like I said, I had that personal finance background, and also both my parents did business. So it's sort of what I grew up around, sort of what I knew and what I thought I would do well in. And then I remember going to school. It's called the Gies College of Business, where I went at Illinois,
Hmm.
after a man named Larry Gies. And he has this big mantra of like finding your why, and it's like finding your purpose of what you actually want to do. And that was something I took to heart. And I remember going through these business classes, and I think there were just certain things that I didn't really resonate with that some of the teachers were preaching. Like, for instance, in a tax class, we had a tax professional, really smart and talented guy. And he told us that it was like a good idea for these companies to offshore their profits to these island countries. And he said it's because it's legal. And therefore, like, if it's legal, then it's fine. It's just a smart thing to do. But I began to like, I questioned him after class about like, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's like moral, and you're kind of like taking the tax revenue from the American people you're trying to help. So it doesn't like it was something that I didn't really side with, just because I feel like everything that is legal isn't necessarily the right thing.
Yeah,
And you got to reconcile the two, because a lot of like the laws and stuff are pushed by like big corporations and like lobbyists and stuff. So you have to sort of have some more critical thinking, at least what I thought from my perspective. And then I
sure.
had another in an entrepreneurship class. We had a teacher who basically projected the idea of like utilizing owning multiple homes as a means of creating wealth. And like that is a very true idea, and it does work. But then I question, like, if we did it specifically in the area where I was living at in Urbana, right? Like, say we all as a class bought up these multiple homes, right? That puts a strain on like first time home buyers in Urbana, like people who don't have the highest income. And so then they can't enter the job market, and they're subject to the like rates that people sent for rent. And so I asked him about that, and he's like, yeah, it's not a great thing for the society, but it's on a small scale versus like a large corporation. But I didn't love the answer, was just like, it's not a great community thing, but it's small. Like that didn't really resonate well with me. I definitely see the value in both of what the professors were saying, but it wasn't just personally like what I felt in my heart. It just wasn't aligned with what they were talking about. And then so I got out into the work world, and I interned in some accounting and finance roles. I was really privileged to have the opportunity to do so. And I learned a lot there. But I think something that I realized was missing is I wanted sort of more of a tangible impact. Like I wanted to see that the work I was doing was actually helping a community and benefiting them, versus, a spreadsheet going out to like investors, which is like important to keep the economy running. And it's really, I see like the value in it, but also like I just wanted to see something that's more tangible for me. And so I came back to school probably like my junior year, and I joined like this Illini mentor program. And essentially we went into local elementary schools in the area, and we helped kids after school like learn, like improve their academics and improve their social skills. And this I found to be a really life-changing event in my life. And I saw like firsthand how different their learning experiences were from mine. Like I grew up in a very like privileged background, and like everybody had like ACT, SAT prep. They had like tutors if they fell behind, college placement stuff. And
Right.
then I look at these kids, and they're behind in their reading levels, and they don't have people to help pick them up to where they should be. And you look at like the resources they're given are vastly different because the like variations in property taxes and the area that they're in. And so I don't know, like the critical thinking just made me sort of think like there's more that I could be doing with my life than business, or sort of a different sector I could like take my life into. And so I ended up joining Teach for America, which they help students living below the poverty line. And I taught students in Louisiana, third graders, how to read and write. And this is extremely impactful because helping people, especially at the third grade level, is like a leading indicator of economic mobility in the future. So it
Right.
was nice. It's probably the most impactful thing I've done in my life, because like the impact that you're going to have it's like you're giving them the chance of economic mobility to put themselves and their families in better chances, and investment in education at that age. And so I think when I started getting involved with these endeavors, I sort of wanted to go down like teaching, but I wasn't really sure. But then I realized law could be a great path because I could actually make the most fundamental impact and create changes. Like I see as a young person in today's society, I talk about this with my friends. We see like housing costs are like rising through the roof, and then tuition every single year gets more expensive, and you see like medical costs keep soaring and stuff. And so it's like I didn't want to be part of the people who are like sitting by and like abiding by the system. I think there's like value in that, but also I wanted to be sort of on the front lines and give more people like a fair shot, like these kids that I tutor, and so that maybe one day that they can like have a better shot at advancing economically. And so this really led me to go to law school and pursue that path. And yeah, sorry, that was really like long-winded answer, but that's sort of how I went from business to law.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, you will be good at opening and closing arguments as a lawyer when you go into litigation.
I
But thank
appreciate
you.
that.
No, but thanks for that because that's really cool. And you mentioned something the exposure the kids get. A lot of them obviously don't get the same entrepreneurial conversations at the dinner table as well to hear certain things and how things are done and all this type of stuff on top of resources and whatnot that are available. So what you're doing there is actually critical for the foundation of community in general. So for those kids to grow up and do something great, whatever it may be, open up a small business, become a doctor, and anything in between, then it helps everybody. So kudos for you for doing that. And I've coached a lot of kids in hockey and sports, a lot of hockey, and but we always were taught because we had some great coaches that you're teaching them way beyond hockey. You're teaching them life and it's going to make an impact on them because it will one way or another. And so way to go for that. It's one of the most fulfilling things I think ever to be able to have that impact. And it's fun when you actually get, if you ever will, meet them when they're 20 years later and see what happened, and they'll remember and tell you what you said or something, kind of like you talked about the fellow who talked about having a why and all that. It makes an impact, when you're younger. So way to go on that. Were there? I mean, that was an incredible experience and probably an inflection point for you. Were there any other standout moments during your internships that had a major impact on you?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of interesting moments in my internships. One of them, I think something that was unexpected that really ended up being the reoccurring theme was that there's much more of an emphasis on like people versus like the actual output of your work. Like it's incredibly important to fill out spreadsheets well and like produce good work,
You love
but you're
spreadsheets, don't you?
it's just what I'm, I guess, most accustomed to. But the thing is like you're surrounded by other really bright people who are also interning and they can do the same quality work as you. So what takeaway was that they don't like really teach you in school was like dealing with people like emotionally. I'm very colloquial with how I talk to people. And so there was like this distinction you had to learn of like how do you talk to people like way above you, and you have to like know your place like where you are. How do you communicate in between those lines and stuff? And so sort of learning like how people respond to information, how you should phrase certain things, the intonation you need to use. People are like, while it's important to do work, people are also very emotional creatures. So just tailoring to like their expectations, and figuring out how you fit sort of in that social structure was a huge thing that is sort of not, they don't really give you any lessons on it in college. There's no like class on that. So it's something you have to go out there and just physically learn yourself. So sort of learning like how people operate, what they perceive you, how they want to be perceived, stuff like that was really an inflection point. And then also, I think what was interesting, like this is a totally separate point, but I would ask people in like accounting and finance, like I'd be like, so why do you like wake up every morning and do everything that you do? And a lot of their answers were like opportunities driven. Like this gives me the opportunity to like talk to C-suite at a young age. It gives me like a lot of exit opportunities. It's a stable job. I get to work with teams. I get to mentor people below me, and these are all great like answers, and they're all great opportunities. But I think what I wanted more in like a career, what I realized after interning was I wanted like a why where it's like a passion. Like I'm waking up every morning to like help people and help like build a better society and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with either of the two whys, but I just think I would fell more into the boat of like I wanted some type of work that was like fruitful and like I mean help the community directly instead of like opportunities. And yeah, so that was sort of a distinction point that I learned through interning.
No, it's fantastic. You know, our firm, Fifth Element, was founded on the premise that leaders and their organizations, for profit, nonprofit, whatever, the organizations can always do better, um, yeah, economically and otherwise, when they're doing good at the same time. There used to be this misnomer for a long time that if you wanted to do something good and make a difference, you have to work for less money for a nonprofit. And if you want to make money, then you just have to just concentrate on making money no matter what type of thing, legal or not, like you said before. And that's it. And you don't have time to worry about anything else. But it's clearly been shown, especially by your generation, that you're looking for, and we're looking for more experiences, number one, than years of experience. And you're looking to be able to make money and do good at the same time. And the only way to do good sustainably is you do need money at this also. So you can do both, and it is better for business. On that note, we talk a lot about talent and leadership and tech and impact. And tech is a tool to lead a company, lead an organization, and make an impact at the same time. In addition to that, it's been said that the fourth industrial revolution is about AI and tech, but the fifth everybody's talking about is about humanity, which relates exactly to what you're talking about. Are you involved in any projects, initiatives right now, or want to take on any in the future to make a difference? And how's your thinking with respect to how fast AI is coming to what changes you have in your mind and just what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll preface by saying, firstly, I'm not involved in any projects, but I'll sort of talk about what I want to work on in the future. But I think AI is evolving faster than anybody could like wrap their minds around. And I think we, as a generation of like young people who are entering the workforce now, it's honestly a bit scary because you look at the jobs they're replacing, and it's like low level, technically like white collar work, like staffing and like data entry and stuff like that and stuff. And so we see an already crunched labor market of young people who are trying to enter the workforce also being even more crunched by AI jobs that can do it faster, better than you. So it's a bit of a scary thing to be a young person in this time when things are going forward like that. But I think you all you can do is really focus on what you can control in your life. And so sort of the reason I think this wasn't even an intention when I was thinking about law in the first place, but now sort of what I want to do. I want to do something in the vein of like employment law, and sort of working like strengthening unions, so stuff like that. And sort of I think this will be the quintessential time to do it essentially because you're going to get all these people who are being laid off or threatened with like their job losses. And so sort of working on like how do you balance AI with humans and how do you like create space for both. But then also, I think what's going to be a really interesting question in the future is you're going to have all these like rewards reaped as a result of AI, right? You're going to have like higher profit margins, higher stock prices. However, like we see that most Americans like don't that doesn't trickle down to most Americans, right? And so you have this large concentration of wealth that's going to be rewarded because of AI. And sort of what I want to be on the precipice of with in terms of law is making sure that like those benefits that are resulting are affecting everybody, even like people who are displaced, and not just solely concentrating in the hands of a few. And sort of I think that's going to be like the key problem of our time, and like how we handle that and how we distribute it equally will honestly determine the future of like our nation and our society. And so it's something that with law, I hope I can focus on those areas specifically.
Yeah, no, that's actually brilliant, and it kind of relates to some of the discussions we're having with executives and leaders right now and your employment law and even your finance background will help there too is going to be good because yeah, a lot of entry level jobs are going to be going away, which means how does anybody get into the job higher up if they didn't have the entry job to learn how to do that in the first place? So there's going to have to be some significant upskilling of people in different things. However, we're also talking about responsibility of leaders of companies and organizations to community, and then maybe they keep on certain people who maybe can't be upskilled, but they keep them on salary, so they can do community type work, whatever that may be. It could be planting gardens in every school around the country. It could be supporting the police officers or teachers or caregivers or a little old lady crossing the street or whatever it may be to help the community. And again, this is where your employment law might come in, is because companies right now would say, well, that's socialism, or that's not our job to pay people salaries to do stuff in the community. However, if they all end up going on unemployment, keyword there being the unemployment part, taxes are going to go up, and maybe even crime will go up because you don't have money. So it's a choice of, do we keep some of them on and brand ourselves as a great company helping community, or do we brand ourselves, oh, you let all those people go, and now you have to pay more taxes because we have to support them on unemployment. I think there could be a real niche for you in what you're doing there in a changed workplace like that. Any thoughts on that big comment of mine?
Yeah, no, I would love to do something in that realm. It sounds, I love your idea. I think it would be an extremely great solution. But I also think like the system that we run in that, specifically like in the United States that rewards, profitability and shareholder increases, there's not going to be really room for people to be like, oh, let's help out these people because it's going to come at the expense of like their share prices and their profitability. And then
Right,
you look at top management, and that's what they're focused on. And you've seen that shift since the 1980s to now, where it's solely focused on like bottom lines and profitability. And so I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know economists have toyed around with like the idea of like universal basic income or something like that
right.
could be a solution in the future. But I think I don't, to be honest, I mean, I'm just 22. I don't really have any solutions in me. I think that what you've come up with is a great idea. So
22
figuring
can
out,
come up with answers too, you know.
you're right, you're right. I shouldn't sell
It's
myself short.
sometimes you need
But
the fresh approach, and I do think that right, they want to make money, and that's the point. That's the whole point of how do you show it's economically makes sense to do that, because you don't want to have to pay for all the unemployment taxes that are all going to happen, and maybe the increase of crime for people that don't have jobs and aren't working, or people that don't have food and will steal, because I don't care what family you're from, if you don't have food, you will steal, and stuff. So that's the interesting part of brilliant, better minds like yourself can figure out from an unemployment, from a legal standpoint, but from also an economical standpoint, door number one or door number two, which one do you want to pick, type of thing. So that's your mission from now on is to figure that out. And in LA, you know this, you're pretty close to LA. We always say leave the audience wanting more so you can do a sequel. So we may have to do a sequel on that topic. But I have one more question in this part. We've all gone through the pandemic, um, and that was especially hard for you guys with your family and situation. So yeah, I'm sorry for that, but I certainly see you and your mom thriving, and congrats on that too. And with all that's happened, we're 5 years later already, 2025, almost, last half. What are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
yeah, I think yeah, like you sort of touched on, the pandemic was hard, especially, well, I guess for me, just because it was just me and my mom. And my dad passed away 2018, so it was about a couple years before. But I think what I'm most grateful for that I've seen like since COVID to like now is just community, like people. I think that's what adds the most like color and like flavor to life is like your community and who you surround yourself with. And because of like times like that, I've been able to grow extremely close to my mom, and I love her dearly. And she's somebody that I know is a constant that'll always be in my life. And I've also been able, when I went back to college and stuff, people were so eager, like that first week of school, to just meet people, be around people, go and hang out and stuff. And so you see, and I see, especially like in my generation, people are like yearning for like third places and like places where people can meet up. So I think the most grateful thing that I have is like my friends, my family, people around, just like people in general, and finding a community. And what I'm most hopeful for is that there is some pull away from technology and from AI and a focus back on this sense of like community. Because I think honestly, like, that's what life is about: is forming connections with people, learning each other, and it just adds the most value to your life.
Yeah, well said. I don't know if you ever heard of blue zones, if you know what they are, but you should Google it. It's a fellow named Dan Buettner studied where are people the most happiest, living the longest, and found out obviously diet and exercise and this and that and the other. But the number one thing that filled people's hearts and souls before anything was belonging, and we do crave it and we need it. It's part of our thing, and a computer can't do that. Zoom can help if you don't have any other choice, but still, so you're right on the money. Hey, I'm grateful that I got two new really cool friends, you and your mom, and so that's I'm grateful for that, and that you are only a 22-year-old leader who cares. But I'm both grateful for that and hopeful for it because I think you're going to do great things. Just don't sue too many people, okay? Um,
I'll try my best. No
um,
promises. So,
but thanks so much for being a leader who cares and for being on the series.
thank you so much for having me. It's really a privilege to be here. So thank you.